Orale! Bienvenidos and welcome to the Familia FFB podcast. This is your host, Jorge Martin. It's the NFL Insider series, and we're going to Steeltown, Familia. We're going to Steeltown, going to Pittsburgh with our buen amigo, our 4-for-4, one of our 4-for-4 people who's been on every one of the 4 years, our amigo Noah Strackbein from Sports Illustrated and All Steelers. Noah, welcome in. How are you?
I'm good. It's always a pleasure to be here. This is my favorite time of year when you hit me up and you say, "Hey, we're going through them." I'm like, "All right, I'm ready." That's when it kind of gets the football juices flowing. I feel like when I get that message from you.
That's why I love filling this time and just making sure that we're giving the Familia community plenty of great information. And this is an intriguing team, so I really want to get into it. But I want to make sure everybody's following Familia FFB on YouTube. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Por favor, get in there. And also, when you go to Underdog Fantasy, use the promo code Familia. You're going to get matched up to the first $250 you deposit on that initial deposit. So get in there. Best ball. You might be drafting against me, Familia. Come on in. Let's get in those best ball streets. But not much has changed in Steeltown, right? New quarterback, new offensive coordinator.
Couple of trades,
couple trades, couple people gone. Let's start with the man they call Dangerous. Danger Russell Wilson. Right now he's been anointed as the starter. Obviously Justin Fields came in on a trade, possibly looking forward, but start the season with Russell Wilson. It's been kind of a rough going the last couple of years in Denver. Where do you see this offense going with him at the helm from what you've seen and what you've been hearing from the coaches?
So I don't have there's some, I guess, skepticism about who Russ is and how good Russ can be, but to be totally honest with you, the Pittsburgh Steelers offense has done just enough to scrape by for the last 2 seasons, and they've done half at the quarterback of what Russell Wilson did last season. So if that's the upgrade that you're getting for the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's immediately something that brings positivity and a lot of optimism. I looked at Russ and what Russ can do. And, Russ is a guy that gets himself into trouble more times than, not. It's not anybody else. It's Russ. But at the same time, he throws 26 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions. He looked like he was a winning quarterback at the end of last season. And I think in Pittsburgh, with the better offensive system and a team that, there are no issues. You could say trust if that's the word, but the Denver Broncos clearly didn't trust Russ to be their quarterback by the end of last season. The Steelers do, and I think that's going to go a long way. So they'll build an offense around him. I don't know if he's the fantasy stud that he once was, but I still think that if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, this is a massive upgrade and one that, could actually carry more potential than it seems, just because Russ is all he's got to do is be the same guy he was last year.
Yeah, especially when you look at what Mason Rudolph did there at the end, at the end last year. And I still saw Russ have a pretty decent deep ball and last year, and actually, what he needs to do is actually kind of unleash the guy who one of the guys who I think I'm really intrigued about, George Pickens, for this year. And I remember 2 years ago, before his rookie year, you were effusive about some of the stuff that you were seeing in OTAs and minicamp, and that closing kick that he had last year has me really pumped for this year. That plus Deontay Johnson's out. Could we be looking at kind of a resurgent? Another step that he's going to take toward being, maybe a top 15, maybe top 12 wide receiver in the NFL?
Yeah, I 100% believe so. So George Pickens is a guy that last year, so his rookie year, everybody saw what he could do his rookie year, and it was just everybody said the same thing. I've never seen anybody who has such control of their body as I do George Pickens, and that's what you're looking for in a wide receiver, obviously. Last year, before the season, he and former wide receivers coach Frisman Jackson told me that the goal in year 2 was to be able to catch the football and take it 60 yards to the house. George Pickens starts 4 games last season, 4 games. Deontay Johnson is not playing. 4 100-yard games, including 195 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Bengals. And he made sure afterwards. My favorite thing, that's how George Pickens is a superstar, because he came out there afterwards and said, I kept the receipts. And it wasn't like this is a meme moment. It was all right, yep, that one's going to be there forever. That's a legendary moment in NFL history now, because in 20 years, we'll be looking back at it. George was able to catch it 10 yards and take it 60 to the house. And that's what he showed. So year three is to put it all together. And you have to think that that's the next step. I think George is in for a massive year. He's got a better coordinator, a better quarterback. Deontay Johnson, I think that would actually benefit him to have a true wide receiver too. But I just look at all around. This guy is like, he's top 10 is like a guess, a prediction, potentially like top 5 if he really does put it all together.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you mentioned the lack of target competition. I mean,
yes.
Just from the wide receiver standpoint, I mean, is it Calvin Austin? Is it Roman Wilson? I mean, who would be running as them, or is that number 2 target Pat Freiermuth?
I think Pat Freiermuth is the guy to watch. I think he's the dude who this is the big step, the big year for him. Tight ends are funny because they develop. It's not that they develop slower, but it's almost as if once they mature into the NFL, they actually understand it better. That's when they become superstars. Travis Kelce is a prime example of that. Like the first couple of years of Travis Kelce, he wasn't great. He wasn't bad. He was good, but that was all he was. And then he became Travis Kelce. Like tight ends develop at a different rate than the rest of the NFL. I think year 3 is when you start to see like Pat Freiermuth really come into his own. I'd say he's the wide receiver 2 right now, but if we're picking one, Van Jefferson might be the best guess. I don't think he's going to be in for a big year, but I think he'll get opportunities. I think the Steelers view him as a guy who's still young and has some potential that's untapped. I don't know how much potential really is untapped. Calvin Austin's your like sleeper. Like if you're looking for a guy to have a big year, but you don't really know if he's going to, it's Calvin Austin because he's got all the physics. Like he could do it. He's shown that he can do it. Was it a matter of the offensive coordinator? I don't know. We'll find out.
Yeah. One last thing on Freiermuth, that, Arthur Smith had kind of sneaky, when he was the offensive coordinator in Tennessee, he had sneaky production out of the tight end position. So, yeah. And also it being a contract year for Freiermuth. So I like that, what you were saying, that he could be the number 2 target in this offense.
Yeah. A surprising stat with Arthur Smith is Kyle Pitts broke the Falcons rookie receiving touchdown record, I believe, his rookie season. And then I'm almost positive Drake London maybe did it with receiving yards the year after. But that was the first thing I was told about Arthur Smith is, hey, here's this surprising Kyle Pitts stat. And I was like, oh, and he's like, yeah, he's real good with the tight ends. So it could be a massive year for Pat Freiermuth. Like this offense could really be developed around him and the running game.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Kyle Pitts, one of the few rookie tight ends to get 1,000 yards. So, I mean, I think, yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on there. Let's jump to the running backs because recently I was on the Yahoo Fantasy podcast with Matt Harmon, and we talked about running back tandems that could be kind of that could jump up, be similar to Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, where both running backs are relevant. And Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren were the 2 of the finalists for the top dog, the Miami tandem one. But yeah, these 2 are both going very similarly in underdog drafts, in kind of like that running back dead zone. But I can see a scenario where both of them are over 1,000 total yards again. Correct? You tell me.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's tough because you want to say this is the year that Jaylen Warren has like an explosive, this is it, welcome to the NFL year, where it's like, oh, is Jaylen Warren a stud? But at the same time, you're like, well, Najee Harris is going to have 1,000 yards. So is there enough left for Jaylen Warren to also get 1,000 yards? And you're thinking, yes, that's how good these guys are. And it all adds up. The offensive line is getting better. The offensive coordinator is better. Hopefully the passing game is better. You slow things down. I mean, look, there's no coincidence that Arthur Smith came to the Pittsburgh Steelers and on his resume is pretty much just a picture of Derrick Henry. Like that's all you had to do was hand Art Rooney the Tennessee Titans offense under Derrick Henry. And he said, oh, okay, yeah, no, that sounds fantastic. That they knew what they were doing. They knew that they brought Arthur Smith in and they went out and got a guy like Russell Wilson, who the thing with Russell Wilson's not going to lose you football games. He's going to give you an upper hand as a veteran quarterback, and your offense is going to run the football all the time. And it is like you can make the argument of, oh, that's too many touches. They're not going to get there. You got to go with the reliable one in Najee Harris, I would say, most likely. But I have a hard time saying neither one of these guys is under 1,000 yards because this should be Jaylen's big year, and Najee is not going to take a step backwards. No chance.
Yeah, and Najee really, making a big deal out of eating clean this, and getting, he must know that there's a contract out there, huh?
100%. And he looks skinnier, like he looks leaner. And it's like last year he showed up. Every year you kind of made fun of, you didn't make fun of him, but it was like a running joke that like for some reason or another, everybody was so fascinated with the body part of Najee Harris's. Like the first time he shows up, it's the fact that he's like 6'2", and he's Najee Harris. He's the first round running back. That's who he is. Year 2, the quads are massive. And you're like, oh my gosh, is this the next Derrick Henry? This is unbelievable. Year 3, it's like, okay, he's got the visor and he's showing up. And it's like, dude, Najee might have put on a little bit of weight. Here it is. And then year 4, he shows up and he's leaner. And you're like, oh, I think I like this one the best. Like I think this is the one where he looks like he could do the most damage. And I don't know. My expectations are very high for Najee. I think he's under talked about right now. He's not appreciated enough.
No, he's going in that range with like Ramondre Stevenson and underdog drafts. And so I mean, running backs are getting pushed down this year, but I mean, if there's a committee, this is the committee because I love Jaylen because of the pass catching chops that he had, that he brings to the table. I mean, I did the note. I think it was sometime during the 70s, 75, 76, the Steelers had both Franco Harris and Rocky Bleier go over 1,000 yards. So, maybe we're going to see it again, total yards when it comes to Jaylen Warren. So I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I think it's going to happen, but I think they're going to be a dangerous duo. I'd take a risk on both of them. If I was, no matter who it is, if it's a reasonable round, I'm taking a risk.
Love it. Who's getting? Is Najee more than likely the one to get the inside the 5?
Yeah. Najee's the safe bet where it's like, okay, and Jaylen's the guy that if you think he could break off a 40-yard run, which is very possible once a week, you're looking at a guy with some pretty good upside.
Awesome. Well, it wouldn't be Steelers football if it wasn't a massive road grading offensive line that was in front of them. Big investment in the NFL draft this year. How hyped is the coaching staff and really all the Steelers country over the upgrades?
Yeah, I think everybody's pretty optimistic. Everyone's trying to temper their expectations because you make a move for a guy like Russell Wilson and then you trade for Justin Fields, which means that you got a pretty good backup plan. You go out and get Arthur Smith, which at first nobody wanted Arthur Smith. That's not the guy that we want. And then they hire him and it's immediately like, no, this guy could be impressive. This is a name that I think the Steelers can make some noise with. You build your offensive line. You have a good draft once again. You go out and get Patrick Queen and Deshaun Elliott and Dante Jackson. It's just the expectations are high. People are trying to say, okay, look, you still got to get past Patrick Mahomes in a very tough schedule. So there's maybe too much optimism right now.
Patrick Mahomes in week 17, by the way, championship week for fantasy football. A lot of people are targeting that game. The one thing to ask about that, there's been no talk about a possible progression from, to see what they have in Justin Fields at the end of the season. Is there?
As of right now, no. Like the Justin Fields thing, I think their plan for Justin Fields is to make him the guy next year, and they want to see what a year behind Russ can do for him. So that could probably mean an extension, but I don't think the Steelers hope that Russell Wilson could actually like lead them to a Super Bowl. That's their general hope, and that's somewhat of their belief. So they're not going to risk messing that up for Justin Fields, whereas then they see Justin Fields as a really good backup, like the best backup you could get in the NFL. And on top of that, a guy who's only 25 years old, that if they could sign him for cheap next year, they'll give him, like, he won't go in as the guaranteed starter, but he'll get the opportunity to be the guy next season.
Well, I mean, I know the fantasy community would love to see that.
If they could toss him in there for a red zone package, all he's got to do is score once, immediate best pickup you can make in fantasy football.
Yeah, people will go nuts. People will go nuts, man.
Yeah.
Look on the defensive side. I mean, this has always been one of the stronger units. I mean, they upgraded a little bit in the secondary last year. Kind of how are we looking against the run and the pass this year?
Oh, the Steelers defense should be top 5 in the NFL. It should be potentially the best unit in the NFL. You have a guy like Keanu Benton who's going to take a massive step forward on the defensive line. That's going to shore things up. You added Dean Lowry, who's a much more reliable backup than you've had on the front seven in a long time. You develop Nick Herbig, who's going to be a strong outside linebacker 3 with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. Then you go to the secondary, or to the second level, and Patrick Queen standing there right in the middle, like potentially top 5 inside linebacker in the league. That was your home run in free agency, and the Steelers hit it. And that's massive, on top of grabbing Peyton Wilson in the NFL draft, who looks really good. Landon Roberts, Cole Holcomb, hopefully. And then in the secondary, it comes down to Minkah Fitzpatrick. And this year they're saying they're just going to let him play Minkah ball, which is he's playing free safety. He's back. He's doing Minkah things instead of trying to be up in the box and changing all that up, because he's good in the box, but that's not where he excels. That's not where you create turnovers. And let Joey Porter Jr. take another step forward and be the guy who shadows the number one. So at this point, it's a pretty full defense. Like, it's hard to find a hole in their defense. Cam Sutton gets suspended. That's a massive blow, but I think that they go out. Like, I think they go out and get a Patrick Peterson. I truly think Patrick Peterson's coming to Pittsburgh again. And I mean, Joey Porter Jr., Dante Jackson, Patrick Peterson, that's not a bad 3. And then in the second half of the season, you get Cam Sutton. It makes sense. This defense looks good. So I've been shooting high with the top 10 in the NFL. I think they're top 5 easy by the end of the season.
Yeah. And then there's that JJ Watt guy. He's pretty good too. Huh?
That's what I'm saying. Like, TJ Watt hasn't even, like, you have so many
TJ Watt.
TJ, hopefully JJ by the end of the season, who knows? But it's you have so many people on that defense right now, to the point where TJ Watt is there and expected to be there, but he's not even like a talking point. Like, he's not the reason that you're using as an example, which is massive, because then you have a guy who, like, literally carried that defense the last 2 seasons and did things you couldn't even imagine. And he's like, now he's just a piece of it. It's wild.
Incredible. Wow, man. We got through this one quick. Give me, I know you just, congratulations on recently getting married.
Thank you.
I won't ask you if you found Mexican food in Italy, but,
I actually, I did find Mexican. I didn't need it, but I did need it. We ate Chinese food when we were out there, just because at some point I was just like, dude, we got it. Like, my body's craving Chinese. I don't know why. So we got to find it. It was pretty good, but we did walk by a taco shop in Florence, Italy. And I was stunned. Like, I stopped, I took a picture of it, the whole 9. I was like, this is crazy. So I did find it. I didn't eat it though.
I'd be, I would want to do it for the archaeological standpoint.
I know. I should have. It would have been a story for, like, could you imagine if it was good? Be like, dude, you want to know they have great Mexican food? Italy. In Florence, Italy. Who would have thought? Yeah, you're right. I should have.
Oh man. Well, mi amigo, please pump anything that's coming up on All Steelers.
Yes. So we do the podcast Monday through Friday on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. And then you can find all our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. We actually just launched this, and I don't usually plug everything, but I'll plug this one. We just launched an all NHL site for those interested in the NHL. So breakaway.com or si.com/on/breakaway. It'll be in my bio. So appreciate it.
Oh man, well, you can find him at Noah Strackbein on the Twitter X machine. So get him in there. Oh, mi amigo, this was awesome. You again hit it out of the park like Pop Stargell and back in the day, the We Are Family days. Still one of these days I want you to wear the old school pill pocket Steelers cap for.
Oh, I might have to. I actually own one of those, so I will.
Those
I
are
will.
still my all-time favorite cap. Still
No,
my all-time favorite cap.
it's a good one. That's the one thing I enjoy about living out here is you can never go wrong with the hat selection are always fantastic.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias for joining us. And amigos, amigas, thank you for joining us. Also, remember, use that promo code Familia when you do your initial deposit on Underdog, and you're gonna get matched up to 250 free bucks. So, also hit Familia FFB on YouTube. You get great content like this. Great, it's helping you get ready for your fantasy football drafts. I'm your host, Jorge Martin. Muchas gracias for joining us. And remember, todos somos familia. Salud.